Welcome to our STS-58 post-launch news conference. Our panelists this morning from your left, this afternoon from your left, are Lauren Shriver, Manager, Launch Integration, and Robert Seek, KSC Launch Director. And we'll start off with Shriver.
Today it could be a very short story. As you know, we had a very good countdown. It was very clean throughout from our point of view. Listening to the loops in the background, we had some paperwork to clear up from Friday's activity and the activity over the weekend. But after that, most of the time I was able to just sit there and listen to all the members of Bob's team here at KSC and the flight team back in Houston perform all the normal checks and balances and make sure all their equipment was working. And when the time came to make the polls, we weren't really working anything, and the weather was beautiful. So I told Bob to go launch.
And it was easy to do on this one today. The real key to today's success was the work that was accomplished over the weekend. The communications unit in the orbiter that caused Friday's scrub was changed out and retested, and that was done in time that certainly exceeded our expectations. That was essentially wrapped up on Saturday morning, and the rest of the activity was the replenishing of all of the experiments and specimens for the space lab. And that work was also accomplished ahead of timeline, so we picked up the activity last night for loading and had no issues to work through the whole conduct of this launch count. We did have a question about the orbiter TACAN unit number 2. It appeared that it was getting a little bit of multipath from some other source, so we did get to talk about that a little bit, but that was really the only training value that this launch count had. Otherwise, it was quiet, and it all paid off with a safe and successful launch.
And on that happy note, let's proceed to questions. Jim Backey.
Jim Banky, Florida Today. I guess I'll ask something for both of you here. In terms of that avionics box that failed, what happens now? You send it to the malfunction lab, figure out what's going on to it, and because you only had so few parts of it, does it make you go back and look at, a few spares left, old parts, obsolescence, that kind of stuff?
Well, the short answer to your question is yes. The unit has been removed, and it'll be sent. We'll take it to our local depot, logistics depot, and do a test on it there. And I think we have the ability to tear that down locally and do all the diagnostics on it. So we'll find out which solid state part in there caused the problem. And the overall posture on that, we'll have to get you the details. There are more spares available. They're somewhere in the acceptance test cycle. So it's not considered a critical item from that standpoint to give us a shortage concern, as it were.
Bill Long, Miami Herald. With the Columbia gone now, what's the outlook for Hubble?
Well, I'll approach it from a local processing standpoint. The Endeavour, the orbiter, should roll out of the processing facility by the end of this week, and that should put it after its normal flow in the assembly building. It'll go out to the pad sometime late next week. The payload is in good shape, and we're expecting it to go to the pad on the 26th. And this will be Launch Complex A, where we've just about finished up the validation of all those systems, so it looks to be clean and ready to accept the hardware. And Lauren can address the launch date.
And yeah, to just add a few words, as Bob said, the payload seems to be coming along very well. The WIFPIC 2, Tom Brakefield just told me this morning that they've gotten a pretty good clean bill of health, so they'll get back into the rest of the payload complement and continue from there. I've talked to some of the crew members, the EVA crew members, a couple of weeks ago, and they were very satisfied with the way their training had been going and the opportunities to keep proficient in the tasks that they're going to do on orbit. And I think they consider themselves mostly in a skill status mode rather than learning how to do new jobs when they get there. And from a program point of view, I think everything else is coming together quite nicely. We've had some looks at some mods to the EMUs to help create a warmer atmosphere for the crew members. We were a little bit concerned about the cool attitude that was required to protect the HST while maintenance was going on, but I think the data that we've gathered on the past missions and then the analyses that have been run all point to the fact that we're going to be okay there. And so all of that is coming together, and we're working toward launching there in early December, or if we can get any kind of clearance to go maybe a couple days sooner, we'll try for that. But we're ready to go on schedule.
Jay?
Have they settled on the number of spacewalks now planned for Hubble, and what does your manifest look like for 1994?
The number of walks for Hubble is 5, and those are 5 pretty full EVA timelines that we've got lined out. There's potential for more than that if we need to do them. And right now for next year we've got a total of 9 flights on the books. Now we have discussions weekly almost to determine what launch dates we want to try to set and what other factors that need to be considered. But at the moment we're proceeding along the lines as if we are going to fly 9.
Bill Chen?
Phil Long already swiped my question, but just a simple follow-up to that one. When will WIFPIC re-enter the flow? Will it be at the VPF or at the pad?
VPF.
Yeah, I think it's going to come back to the VPF and go into the carrier.
Todd Halverson, then we go to NASA headquarters for a couple questions. Todd?
Todd Halverson of Florida Today. I think for Lauren, maybe for Bob. What are the different options you're looking at in terms of moving the Hubble mission up a couple of days? What days are available? What constraints are there out there to moving it up? And when will a final decision be made?
Well, we had asked the various agencies involved if we might be able to go a couple of days early. Is really all we were thinking of. And right now there's a constraint that would not allow us to do that, and as far as we know, that constraint is still there, and we don't know of any reason why it's going to go away. And I think we had hoped by, say, a week or so from now to have our final input and final decision on whether we want to keep trying for that or not, or just stay right where we are and let everybody start planning definitely for that.
Do you have some questions at NASA headquarters?
This is John Bisney with Unistar Radio. Bob, regarding the intruder aircraft you had at the T-minus 5-minute point, I assume that that's causing you problems because it's wandered into the box right at that point. What's the situation with radar advanced warning on that you can't watch that? I know that's a big box, but isn't there some way to give you better advanced warning of aircraft that might potentially intrude? Would you like to have the Air Force put an AWACS up, maybe something to better monitor the whole zone?
Well, we leave it up to the Air Force and the Department of Defense to keep the secure area secure, and they do an excellent job of that. As you know, they, in addition to their aircraft, they're tied into Miami, and they are able to monitor it very well. In this case, the aircraft was well offshore. It was some 50 miles off, but it was in the restricted area, and it would appear that it was cutting across it at a fairly high altitude. So they gave the hold call just to make sure that the aircraft would not become a bother for us, rather than have to work the thing inside of T-minus 5 minutes when, as you know, we have limited hold time.
This is A.R. Hogan, Writers Plus newsroom in Ad Astra. A couple of questions. what happens and when to the 1,000 or so standby astrorats left over at the Cape?
Let me give you a call to the newsroom up in headquarters. We'll get to you on that. We have a lady who knows those things. She'll be in touch with you. Stand by in the newsroom.
And the other question I have is a bit offbeat, perhaps, but
That dropped
Say
out.
we're used to that, but that's okay.
Headquarters, we had a dropout.
can you hear us now? Okay. The two Soviet, the Russian cosmonauts that are stranded up there waiting for a relief mission, has any thought ever been given on the space shuttle if there's any kind of a rescue capability of getting a shuttle on short notice, like in the movie Marooned, to rescue anybody stranded up there? I know it's a bit offbeat, but that's the last question from Washington.
Well, right now, about all we would be able to do is go up and come into close proximity to the station. We don't have any docking mechanism that we can put on the shuttle at the moment and go in and get them. We are, of course, working on such a feature for some future operations with the Muir, but the status of that equipment is is a couple of years away at least. So right now we wouldn't be able to entertain other than just flying up close, and there would have to be some other way dreamed up to transfer cosmonauts from their Muir over to the space shuttle, because we have no docking capability at the moment.
I understand we now have a question from JSC.
This is Dan Feldstein from the Houston Post. I was wondering if you knew what type of aircraft that was, and also, has the FAA ever actually pulled someone's license for going across your restricted area?
We'll have to get you the details on the aircraft. It appears it was a Navy government plane. And as far as the license, we'll have to research that too. I know the FAA has prosecuted, but I don't know what the results were.
And the last question from here also, there was a call on the fuel cell pH that was made, and I never heard kind of what the result of that was. I was wondering, and that's it from here. Thanks.
Well, again, we'd have to make sure and get you follow-up data. The initial call that I heard over the loops, and this is not necessarily an unusual call, is that they had a momentary pH message, which we sometimes run into a kind of a transitory condition where there's a slug of water that runs past the sensor and sets it off. It's momentary, and then it's gone. And I think that's what it was again.
Does that wrap up questions at JSC? Okay, we're back here at KSC for a few more questions. Do I see any wildly waving hands? See no wildly waving hands. That's the end of this news conference. Thank you very much for coming.